Hello friends, welcome to Animated Book Summary. Today I am going to share Tiny Habits book summary. So stay tuned till the end. Tiny habits can change your life. Every year, millions of people decide to improve their lives. We choose to eat healthier, exercise more, and sleep more. We go to the gym for a while, eat vegetables instead of fries, and ensure we are in bed by 11 p.m. and it feels great. And then something happens. These new habits begin to relapse as the weeks pass. We miss one day, two, a week, and so on. We return to the starting point in no time. We question why making long lasting changes to our daily lives is so difficult. Bj Fogg, a behavioral expert at Stanford University, has an answer. We take on too much at once. Rather than starting slowly with a new 10-minute fitness routine at home, we begin with a strenuous daily 2-hour gym routine. The problem with this method is that we have to change our lives completely. Motivation declines as soon as our body starts to complain. The initial excitement wears off, and our new gym membership becomes more than a sobering reminder of our past failures. But it does not have to be this way. In this video, we will look at Fogg's alternative to make lasting changes by starting with tiny habits. Along the way, you will learn why motivation and willpower alone do not guarantee success, how prompts trigger both good and bad habits, and why anchoring new behaviors in existing routines is critical. Positive change can be simple but takes a new approach. Everyone wants to make a difference. Some people try to live healthier lives and get in shape while others work on being more productive or using creativity. But the steady stream of news stories about rising obesity, trouble sleeping, and job satisfaction show that something is wrong. They offer a big gap between what we want to do and what we do. Commonly, we attribute this disconnect to our lack of willpower, but that is not the case. So, here's the key message on this point. Creative positive change can be simple, but it requires a new approach. If you have ever failed to establish a positive new habit in your life, chances are you blamed yourself. If only you were more disciplined and motivated, you could have done it, right? Only sometimes, to be sure. Later on, we will see that there isn't much evidence to support the claim that motivation is the only factor influencing behavior change. This means that the real problem isn't you, it's how you try to change. First and foremost, stop blaming yourself. If you have needed help changing, you have most likely been doing it incorrectly. And the reason is straightforward. Years of well intended by unscientific advice. Change can be simple when you understand how human behavior works, which is something we will cover. Second, you must break down your goals, such as overcoming a lifelong battle with obesity or saving enough for early retirement, into manageable, bite sized chunks. This methodology results in long term change, and this isn't just a theory. The author's Stanford Behavior Design Lab has worked with more than 40,000 people over the years to study, test, and improve this method. Begin with small steps if you desire long term change. Can you imagine preparing a nutritious, well balanced meal every night? How about keeping a gratitude journal and going for a run every morning? These new habits can be adopted simultaneously, which may seem challenging, but assistance is available. The key takeaway from this point: if you want long term change, start small. Let's start with a common misunderstanding, the information action fallacy. This is the belief that simply providing people with the correct information will cause them to change their attitudes and behaviors. While it's an interesting theory, it doesn't hold up in practice. More than facts alone is needed. So, what motivates behavioral change? In his research into habit formation, the author discovered three solutions: epiphanies, environmental changes, and minor changes to existing habits. Let's take a look at each of these individually. Epiphanies or sudden revelations are impossible to bring about consciously unless you have magical powers. And environmental changes are frequently beyond your control. After all, you can't force all your friends to start practicing yoga to support your new habit. That leaves the so-called small habits. These minor tasks such as flossing one tooth take less than a minute to complete. The idea is that starting small makes the task easier to achieve, and the more you do it, the better you will feel. This creates a feedback loop that wires in new habits over time. Most importantly, a small pattern is something you can begin right now. We won't be looking at specific habits in the following point. Instead, we will look at the technique for making any habit stick. But before we get there, let's look at one of the author's tiny habits to see how they work in practice. He refers to it as the Maui habit after the Hawaiian island where he first learned it. Every morning, as he steps onto the floor for the first time, he says it's going to be a great day. And as he says this, he tries to bring up feelings of optimism and positivity. This catchphrase has become an automatic reflex over time. Even if he knows the day will be difficult, he will still say it's going to be a great day somehow. It was a small but life-changing hack for him, because even when things are bad, the door to a good day is always slightly open. Human behavior is influenced by three major factors: motivation, ability, and prompts. You are probably aware that you must change your behavior to change your life. It would help you if you realize that only a few factors determine whether or not you will succeed. This point's key message is that human behavior is driven by three key variables: motivation, ability, and prompts. When it comes down to it, all behaviors are very similar. Making coffee, showering, and brushing your teeth all results from the same three factors. The first is motivation, which is your desire to do something. The second factor is an ability, or your ability to do that thing. Third, there are prompts, which are stimuli that cause you to do something. Let's see an example of how these three factors work in practice. In 2010, the American Red Cross raised $21 million in 7 days to assist Haiti's devastating earthquake victims. How did the organization persuade people to give so generously? All three variables were present. They triggered the desired behavior, giving money by working together. The consequences of the earthquake in Haiti were widely publicized and heartbreaking, so the motivation to help was high. Donating was also very simple. All you had to do was respond to a text message. This meant that people could give money without pulling out their credit cards. For example, the author donated while working out at the gym. Finally, the SMS prompt was an excellent way to capture people's attention and encourage them to contribute immediately. When all three variables are the same, behavior is much more likely. Motivation can inspire people to do extraordinary things, such as mothers lifting cars to save their children. However, people's motivation level are generally low, so they will only take actions that are comfortably within their capabilities. Even then, it is only when there is a clear prompt. For example, a habit that many of us would like to leave: checking our social media account first thing in the morning. We end up doing it for all three of these reasons. For one thing, it's entertaining, which is motivating. Second, it's simple because the phone is already in our hands. Finally, why is it there? Because smartphones are also alarm clocks. We pick them up first. All this means that the more accessible a behavior is, the more likely you are to engage in it. And as you will see in a moment, this insight will assist you in making unwanted habits less likely and desired habits more likely. Motivation may be sufficient for one-time achievements but insufficient for long-term change. Did you know that over 100 million people enroll in online courses yearly, but only 10% complete them? The remaining 90% drop out. Why? They fell for a common mistake. They thought motivation alone was enough to get things done. That is the key message. Motivation may suffice for one-time achievements but is insufficient for long-term change. Motivation people can do amazing things. It can motivate out of shape travelers to sprint for miles to catch their planes and trains. It can get an alcoholic to go to his first AA meeting and a person who has worked in an office all her life to start a new life as a trapeze artist. But here's the thing about this big, one-time burst of motivation. They are perfect for doing hard things just once. Sustainable change, on the other hand, means doing the same thing every day, and that's something most people forget. Instead of focusing on what they can do right now, they think about what they want to do in the future. These are long-term goals, like limiting your time in front of a screen, being more patient with your kids, or losing 12% of your body fat. Aspirations are abstract goals. They tell you what you want to accomplish, but not how you will do it, and just being motivated won't be enough. Imagine that someone will pay you $1 million if you cut the sugar in your blood by 10%. It doesn't matter how motivated you are, it is an impossible task. Just like getting better sleep or losing 10 pounds before dinner. Behavior gets us from where we are now to where we want to be. Let's use an everyday example, saving, to see how this works. Most banks will tell you to keep an emergency fund if something terrible happens, like your roof leaks or car breaking down. A good goal is to have some extra money to cover this risk, but how do you get there? You can't think of $500 and save it right now, but you can do things that will help you reach your goal. For example, you could call your cable company and change your service to the lowest level. You could also empty your pockets and put the money in a jar to use in an emergency. In other words, behaviors cause change because they are easy to do immediately. The simpler a habit, the more likely you are to adopt it. When Instagram first launched in 2010, its founders knew that people were eager to share photos of themselves on the internet. However, this was the first time anyone had previously focused on the second variable of behavior, ability. That is what distinguishes Instagram. It only took 3 clicks to take, upload, and post a photo. It was straightforward and people adored the platform for it. The Instagram company was sold for $1 billion in just 18 months. It is now worth $100 billion. Simplicity pays dividends. And that is the key message. The easier it is to form a habit, the more likely you will do so. Simplifying desirable behaviors is an excellent strategy for developing tiny habits. And the best way to do so is to look at what makes the conduct in question challenging. This is usually determined by several factors, including time, money, physical capacity, mental energy, and compatibility with your current schedule. Assume you decide to improve your fitness by performing a daily set of 20 push ups. Time can't be an issue because doing push ups isn't that difficult. Money? No. Push ups can be done at home for free. So, how about physical capability? Here comes the first issue. After all, if you last did a push up years ago, you may need more upper body strength. There's also your mental energy to consider. Push ups couldn't be more enjoyable, especially when they are also a physical challenge. So, motivation may also be an issue. With these considerations in mind, do you believe your push-up routine will become a habit? Isn't that correct? When you are not very good at something, you will only do it when you feel motivated. And as we have seen, big jumps in motivation are good for doing hard, one-time tasks but could be better for doing the same things repeatedly. This means that when you make your tiny habits, you should focus on how easy they are and make them as simple as possible. Assume your daily goal is to complete 2 wall push-ups. They are simple and help to build body strength. They take little motivation to complete, but they make you feel good. This makes it easier for you to do something every day and makes it more likely that you will keep doing it. As you can see, looking at new habits through this lens helps you find ways to make them more accessible and build them into your life. You can create prompts to start the behaviors you want to see in yourself. You are surrounded by cues that demand individual responses wherever you are. These cues say, do this behavior now, whether it's the grumbling of an empty stomach telling you to eat or the green light that makes you accelerate. This is a standard unconscious process in which you do something without considering why, and this automaticity offers an opportunity to solidify positive changes in your life. So, what is the main point here? You can create prompts to start the behaviors you want to see in yourself. There are many prompts in everyday life, and many need to be better designed. For example, the snooze button is frequently more prominent on phones than the alarm off control, making it easier to doze off than wake up. That's an example of an ineffective contextual prompt or a prompt in your surroundings. Then there's the person prompt, which is something inside you telling you to do something. For example, when you need to pee, you may feel pressure in your bladder, and that is a prompt that always works. Unfortunately, there is no built-in reminder to remind you to pick up the dry cleaning or that your mother's birthday is this weekend. However, the action prompt is the most effective type of prompt. These are the most straightforward prompts to hack, which makes them a valuable tool for forming small habits. Action prompts are existing behaviors that prompt you to start new ones. Consider the author's example. When he decided to improve his fitness, he looked for a dependable prompt that occurred several times daily. What is his solution? Going to the restroom, he did 2 push-ups after every flush. That quickly became a habit, and he still does it 7 years later. Depending on how much water he drinks, he can do up to 50 push-ups daily. The reason why action prompts work is straightforward. Rather than starting from scratch, you are building on existing routines. Boiling water for tea, dropping your kids off at school, hanging up your coat when you get home, any pre-existing behaviors can prompt new ones. The best part is that they don't require any thought. Flushing toilets and boiling kettles can become automatic triggers to do push-ups. Mindful breathing or whatever else you want to do, start doing with some practice. Therefore, does this mean that you can choose any action prompt? No, not at all. In the next point, you will discover what prompts work best for your new habits. Consider location, frequency, and theme when making action prompts. Action prompts keep you from wandering around aimlessly like anchors, but you must be careful where you drop them. The best spots are where you do the same things over and over, day after day. This should be the rocks you can count on in a life full of shifting sandbars. Now all you have to do is look for them. The main point is that you should think about location, frequency, and theme when making action prompts. The first thing to consider when making action prompts is where they will be. Does it make sense, for example, to do push-ups in your bathroom? Indeed, if you work from home, like the author. But if you spend all day at the office, choose a different prompt. Then there is how often. If you want to make your tiny habit every day, choose something that happens every day. One of the author clients wanted to start the small habit of writing down what they had to do the next day when they woke up. So she tied it to her once a day routine of dropping her kids off at school, which worked well. On the other hand, if your tiny habit is something you want to do more often, your reminder should be something you often do. Lastly, the best anchors are related to the behaviors we want in a way that makes sense. Say you want to start your day with a glass of water. You could talk about constantly watering the jade plant in your bedroom as a starting point. Care could be the theme here. Giving the house plant water makes it grow, which is the same thing that will happen if you water yourself. On the other hand, there are better reasons to clean the garage than to brush your teeth. Why? Well, neither the theme nor how often or where these two things happen to match up. This means that it's not likely that a habitual, automatic link will form between them. There are times when it's clear which habits go with which prompts. If your goal isn't to keep your garage clean but to floss more often, brushing your teeth is an excellent way to remind yourself to do it. But it takes more work to figure out how to change some habits. So keep in mind that making prompts is a test. Listen to what the author says. He tried to breathe mindfully for 1 minute every night when he went to bed. Even though it was a good anchor, he needed to get the desired results. So instead of doing the breathing exercise, he decided to use the same reminder to start a new habit, thinking about one thing he was grateful for. That made a happy little zing in his brain, telling him he found the right trigger for the right tiny habit. The more you experiment with making habits, the better you will get at using the ideas discussed in these points. When that happens, you will start to feel those happy zings yourself, and that means you are at least a little closer to making your dreams come true.